Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tech Informist, where we will give you, our listeners, information on the technological industry, inform you on apps you should download for your favorite gadgets. So my name is JJ Hammond, and we have a great show for you. Are you ready to be informed? Of course you are. Up first, our guest for the show. He is a technology podcaster, published author, and blogger on his own website, Supersite for Windows and Windows IT Pro. He regularly writes how-to articles, posts his personal comments, previews, and reviews for beta and completed Microsoft products. He is a regular co-host of Windows Weekly podcast from the Twit Network, alongside co-hosting the What the Tech podcast. Husband, father, all-around awesome guy, the one, the only, Paul Thurrott. Hello, and thank you for being on the show, sir.
That was very complete. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it's phenomenal. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. However, this show is not complete, and I mean that, without my good friend, editor-in-chief of the Tech Informist, STLTechTalk.com, producer of Codecast by STL Tech Talk, co-creator of STLTechChic.com, our women in tech website, the uncanny Kevin Harvell. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, everybody. Paul, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Much appreciated.
Oh, no, thank you, guys.
And don't forget, everybody, you can follow us on all the social media platforms, and you can contact us and interact with the show by going to contact@thetechinformist.com to send all your feedback or whatever. Kevin manages that. I don't, so just go ahead and flood his inbox. Now, I just want to tell everybody we're on Twitter at Tech Informist. Also, I want to give out special thank yous to Russell Holly. He was an amazing guest last Friday. It was kind of weird doing a show on a Friday, but it was totally cool and totally timely. So we thank him for taking the time out to do that. That was really great. Also, I want to thank Unidev. If you dream it, they can build it. Custom software, end-to-end development, beautiful web design, and creative marketing solutions. In business for the last 25 years with 200-plus customers and 24/7 support, you will not be let down or left out on the creation of your dreams. If you want software development, content management systems, mobile development, web design, e-commerce solutions, digital marketing, and hosting, go to our website and click on their banner, or go to unidev.com and get the high-quality service you deserve today. Now let's get to the reason, the main event, why we're all here today, and that is to talk to Paul. So, Paul, describe the life of a tech blogger, if you can.
Jeez, it's a lonely existence, as you know.
No way.
No, I don't know. I mean, this is maybe what it's like for me, not what it's like in general. I maybe have a workaholic type problem. I'm in front of the computer a lot. Just super healthy, by the way. I recommend it for weight loss and basic cardio.
Man says with a treadmill behind him.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, so I've kind of settled into the I work from home rhythm, and I would be ruined if I had to go into an office every day. So I don't do the 9 to 5 thing. Years and years ago became very familiar with the notion that sometimes it's going to come and sometimes it's not going to come, but I'm also going to be sitting here and doing something. There's all kinds of stuff I could mess around. You can probably see some of it. So, I work 7 days a week. I mean, I work.
Right.
My wife goes out one night. I'm going to sit in front of the TV, but I may be working too. So.
Right, exactly. And yeah. I've noticed that it's not about days off necessarily, and I've said this before on the shows. It's about time. Like I have a block of time off, and then it's back to work right after that. So it's one of those things, and then like you said, but my wife will look over. She's like, "You're working, aren't you?" It's like,
right.
You're not enjoying this with me.
When you don't answer her is how she knows the answer.
Exactly. Well, I say "what" a lot, and that drives her nuts because my hearing's getting worse. But anyway, so it's been a pleasure to listen to you over the years and listen to what you have to say about tech. And blogging and writing about these sorts of things. How do you stay so? And it's very impressive. I just want you to know that it's very impressive how you say and have a sober delivery of the information. Like you don't. I don't see you going to the polar opposite. Like, oh, do you know what? I'm done with Microsoft. You're just like, okay, they're doing this, or like I'm going. You probably do that. You probably do that, but just not. Professionally, you have that professionalism to you. So how do you do that? Because with the way that social media is, it's so easy for us to just a knee-jerk reaction, throw out a thought, and just and kind of make a little bit of a jackass of ourselves.
Oh no, I do that regularly. I mean, and I really do, and I don't mean that in a joking sense. I mean, I really, really do.
Okay.
But I used to, but that's okay. You know, on Twitter or whatever. I think that kind of reaction is fine. And I think I've actually said to people occasionally on Twitter, you know, don't judge me by a tweet. You know,
Right.
sometimes I'm just having fun with it. I may go nuts during an Apple event or something, and it's very much a knee-jerk reaction. You know.
Right.
I certainly had that knee-jerk reaction to the iPad, for example, or whatever when that first came out. But you know, then again, I mean, even my reaction to the iPad was based on 10 years of experience with tablets, which a lot of the people who were, you know, salivating over the iPad didn't have, and so
Right.
part of it is just experience. I also believe, whether this is true or not, that people who came up in the world on the Windows side, on the PC side, tend to be more pragmatic and logical and less emotional and whatever.
Right.
That said, I mean, I get excited about stuff. I mean, over the course of many years, there were things like Media Center is a great example, or Windows Phone. When Microsoft announced these things, where I said, wow, this is truly impressive. You know, I want to be involved with this. I want to do what I can do around this stuff. I really care for it. So, you know, I don't know, but I don't know. I am the way I am.
I love it, man. It's just like, you know, I can always count on you holding the center for me a little bit. Like, I want to go like this way and that way with it, you know, but I'm just like, it's Paul Thurrott.
Well, look, anyone, and myself included, can knee-jerk react to something. I mean, like I said, I do that, but
you manage it well. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I mean, you may have like a Tim Cook cutout and on your punching bag. I don't know. I mean, you could have superimposed it on there, but I'm just saying that you do it well.
Well, thank you. So I mean, I'm not sure what to say. I mean, I just do, like I said, I do things the way I do things. But you know, I'm not always successful, and I've had that moment, you know, over the years where I think, you know, this thing, whatever it may be, requires a second look almost. You know, like you come out with something that is very much a first impression, kind of a knee-jerk reaction. Later, a week later, a month later, you know what? Maybe this isn't so horrible, or maybe this thing has improved, because those things happen. You know, Chromecast is a great example. The first version of Chromecast was a terrible waste of time, and everyone was so excited about it because it was $29 or $30 or whatever, and it was going to do so much in the future. But at the time, it didn't, and so I kind of, you know, slagged off on that and wasn't too complimentary about it. But I'm also the type of person that I don't just use it once and throw it away. It stays there, and I go back to it, and I go back to it, and I see that they've improved it, and I check that out, and I don't remember how it happened or when it happened, but at some point I was like, okay, this has crossed some line where it's not completely terrible.
Yeah, and the interesting part is that you when you're doing those reviews, you give it that chance, because it seems as though you take the time out to say, you know what, it may not be there right this second, but there's going to be iterations on this. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, sure.
And I think a lot of people just get it, review it, try to get it out there, try to get the hits off of it, and then throw it away.
Yes, exactly. And I had this conversation with Microsoft about various tech blogs and how they court, not even tech, I shouldn't say tech blogs, but tech blogs, let's say, or whatever, they court certain publications, you know, with certain types of products. Right. And I keep telling them, you know, I said, you can go to these places and you'll be 10 minutes for them. But I said, you know, throw me a phone and I write about it over a period of months.
Right,
you know,
right.
I don't walk away from it, you know.
Right.
And I don't know, sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't.
Hey, I'm still on team let Paul and Mary Jo be the PR guys for Microsoft. Holy cow, if there's somebody
enjoy that.
Probably do that the best, it would be you guys.
I don't think Frank Shaw drinks enough for that to happen, but that would be wonderful.
We could try. You know, there's a local town here in St. Louis with that beer machine that sits right in here. We'll just send him one of those and just start sending him cartridges of the stuff.
There you go.
So that may help, but it's like you said, because a lot of the problem is, say, like the Lumia 930 and this Verizon controversy around it, you know, that kind of thing. A person may not be up for upgrade, right? I mean, that thing just came out, it feels like. I mean, like months ago. And
it's actually been 2 years, but yes, I mean, of course, somebody could have bought it 6 months into that, or
right, exactly. Yeah. Right. And they want to know, you know, do I get this as my next device or whatever? And it's like there's no thought process that goes behind, like that sustained, like this is what's happened over the course of a little bit of a time, and this may benefit you now.
Yeah, I mean, even keeping track of just what Nokia/Microsoft has done with the Lumia over the past, 3 years, whatever it's been, is very difficult. There's
Okay.
a device like the 730 or 735 where I can say, this is the logical successor to a Lumia 720, to which to the United States, they have no idea what I'm talking about because that phone wasn't really released in the United States.
Right, right, exactly.
It's hard to keep track of this kind of stuff, and even for myself, I'm always moving on to the next thing. And the 930 is actually a great example because I hear from that crowd a lot, and they are complaining a lot. We don't have a new flagship. When is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? What do I do? Do I take a step down to an 830 or something like that? And those are hard decisions, and people's preferences are all very different. I happen to love the camera stuff that's part of the Lumia ecosystem, and
Right.
those cameras really only exist in the high-end devices. But then I look at some of the low-end devices, and I think this is an awesome, an awesome phone. Like, it's just
Yeah.
nice to hold and nice to carry around. It like slips right in your pocket. It's so small and light and everything, and it's hard. It's hard to give good advice. I don't. I will tell you the worst part in many ways of what I do is someone will write me back and say, hey, based on your glowing review of whatever, I
Sure.
just bought one, and I was like, oh my god, like I have just, what have I done? What if this
Right.
doesn't work out? I mean, I take that, very seriously.
Well, all right. I'll give you an example. A person comes up and they're like, "Hey, what PC should I get, or should I get an iPad?" And I'm like, "Oh crap."
Yep.
Um,
You've just described a book's worth of information.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. But you wonder, you're like, no matter which way I go, even if they don't listen to me at all and they go Android, they're still gonna come back to me and ask me how do I use this thing.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm gonna be, and then if they take my suggestion, if I'm like, no, get a PC, this is what you want to get, this is why you want to get it, I am the devil as soon as something does not work. Like, as soon as they can't access their email or something, it's over. Like, they call me, they text me, they email me, they try to destroy my life.
Yeah, when otherwise smart people are suddenly complete idiots, and
Right,
I know guys who are like CPAs or lawyers and
right.
continually getting viruses on their computer, and all I can think is, I have a 12-year-old girl and a 6-year-old son. They're just using
And
the
stop
built-in
there. I have a
stuff on
12
Windows.
year
They
girl.
never have problems.
Right,
You, successful businessman,
right.
three-figure salary, yada yada yada. You cannot. Apparently, you are not smart enough to use a PC. So it is really strange.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely completely understand that.
So the next question that I have for you is, what has it been like to watch the evolution of the Microsoft Windows platform? I mean, it appears to me it's like a roller coaster ride, like everything else. But what has it been like for you, like personally? I write about this stuff every day, and you don't just write about Microsoft. I want everybody to know that.
Yeah, sure.
You don't just write about, but I mean, you have a lot of knowledge when it comes to that stuff, so that's why you write about it, obviously. So what has it been like to kind of cover that?
Well, I mean, it's like this roller coaster thing. So
Right.
back in the early days, 20 years ago or whatever, I was not a fan of Microsoft. I was not a fan of Windows. I had no respect for any of that stuff. And, by virtue of the way I kind of came up in the industry, I knew Windows and Microsoft were going to be a big part of it. Unfortunately for me, the version that was then in development became Windows 95, and with my kind of Mac/Apple/Amiga background, I looked at this and said, okay, this one's pretty good. Like, this is nice. They're doing some good stuff here. And, and having NT come of age at that time was really great because NT was awesome. And so, since then it's been kind of up and down. I mean, Windows used to set the agenda, and I would say since the Longhorn stuff, Windows has been more reacting than being
Right.
proactive about, determining how things go. So we're never going to see anything like Windows 95 again, but there have been ups and downs, and Windows has adapted, mostly pretty well. I mean, Windows 8 obviously was a little bit of a disaster, but they're correcting that. And honestly, I have to say, they're correcting that is one of those things that gets me really excited. I'm really excited by what they're doing in Windows 10, and yet I know that this impacts people who aren't necessarily super enthusiastic about technology. That stepping back from the cliff of mobile and touch and whatever is the smartest thing they can do for this platform on PCs, and I'm glad they're doing that.
So they're like the Seahawks. They play better on defense. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No.
Sure.
Do you think they like being on the defensive side of it? I mean, do you think they want to be on the underdog? I mean, because God knows they must be masochists if that's what they like to do.
Well, okay, so I mean, the thing with Microsoft, remember, is that they have many employees, different
Oh,
product teams and whatever. But
100,000.
they're also years down the road, and so the people that ran Windows 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago are long gone from the company in many cases, and in others they're simply not part of the company. So, does the Windows team today like the fact that they're not on top of the world? I mean, I don't think they really have a lot of that perspective. Although some of those guys like Joe B were around 20 years ago to see what that was like, and so.
Right.
I think that Microsoft today and their reaction to the market, the mobile first, cloud first thing, and the way that they're going about it is, the way they have to go about it. It's smart, it's pragmatic, it's logical, all the stuff we were talking about earlier. But for the people who are kind of stuck in that old school mindset, whether they're in Microsoft or outside of Microsoft, it's hard to take,
Oh, yeah.
Whereas I think it's fine.
Yeah, I don't deal well with criticism, so I'm sure they don't either.
Well, I mean, no, but there are some people who remember when Windows was computing, and
Right.
they liked being on top of the world, and they liked controlling the whole thing and having an outsized amount of influence over the industry and so forth. And I get that, but I think what we're seeing today is healthier. So I think it's ultimately better for everyone.
Do you think that it was about, with this new UI element, the modern UI stuff, do you think it was about them wanting to be, because it felt like they had enterprise, they had their Win32 apps and everything like that. Do you feel like it was now it's kind of in their mindset to be cool or be kind of design artistic and hit that crowd? Because it feels as though with the modern UI designs, universal app, the flipping tiles, all that's artistic. It's completely unnecessary. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yep.
I love it, and that's what I
Yeah.
developed towards. But I'm just saying that it's completely unnecessary, and it's more Apple-esque in its design. It's wanting to be unique, and it's wanting to have its own thing. So, I mean, do you think that that's what they were going for, is more of an
No,
artistic?
it definitely was. And so we only have 45 minutes, so I can't get into the full story. But
Okay.
the short version basically boils down to Microsoft will tell you over and over again that they don't care about Apple. They're not comparing themselves to Apple. We're different
Sure.
companies. But Windows 8 is a perfect example of them very bald-facedly doing the Apple thing, and trying to own the whole widget. It's the reason Zune happened. It's the reason Surface happened. This is them. It's Apple envy.
Right.
Those things don't happen unless Apple happened first, and so we can blame Apple or credit Apple for Windows 8 if you want. That's not a bad argument. But I feel like a different group of people could have made Windows 8 work.
Yeah.
That the mistake they really made wasn't so much copying Apple, although that's kind of baloney too, but it was that the sort of unilateral way they did it. It was the first version of Windows where they introduced a new UI and didn't give you any way to go back to the old UI. And that enraged their enterprise customers and business customers, and ultimately actually everybody. But the vast majority of people who use Windows do so on a traditional computer with a keyboard and mouse. What is this thing? This is
Right.
giving me an iPad UI. What is this?
Way too jarring of an experience.
I mean, that team of people was so unilateral and wrong that they took some stuff from the Windows Phone guys, but never worked with them ever again. They never reached out and said, let's make sure we're on the same page, using the same names for controls, using the same UI conventions where it makes sense, et cetera, et cetera. They never did that. They just took and then they ran with it. And on the one hand, you got to give them a little credit because they moved very quickly, which at Microsoft to that point was not something that ever happened. And they were responding to a very serious market threat. They got a product out in the market very quickly. But on the other hand, they alienated everybody in doing
Right.
internally, externally, partners, customers. I mean, it's the whole thing. It's a disaster. And so, you just said, you're fine with Windows 8. I am too, really. But the truth is, 99% of people have used it are like, what is this crap? What have they done?
They just say they hate it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like it's fun to hate it for some reason.
You have these conversations where you say, you don't understand. Windows 8 has like the file copy and the desktop is amazing. It's got storage spaces. It's got Hyper-V client. You can list all these things, and they're like, yeah, it's got tiles. I don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, where's my normal start screen? You're like, oh, geez, I've lost you already.
It's just too bad.
So Yeah, real quick, I'm a big fan of shows, and it's almost like Windows 8, like a writer come flying in the room and say, "Hey, this is a good idea," and it's the worst idea ever. You should never have taken the plot that way. So the other thing I was really curious about, if you had, because I talk with a lot of businesses as well, and you do too.
Mhm.
If you were to say to a business who is looking to upgrade from Windows 7, what would you tell them? Yes, Windows 10 it's there. It's what you need to be. Or would you say hold off or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, so far what I've seen is that yes, it is there, and I think that is actually the central amazing thing about Windows 10, because when you look at Windows 8 and you think, well, how do you fix this? I mean, it's hard not to go down some pretty dark paths.
Exactly.
Maybe we should walk away from this platform entirely and just start over from scratch. Maybe
Right.
we should just let Windows Phone, have the mobile part of it, and these will be just two separate things. You get into some weird areas because you can't conceive of how they could possibly make this right. And then you look at what they did for the desktop in Windows 10 and just the first preview, and obviously the touch stuff isn't quite there yet, but I think they're going to do it, and I do think that the goal is, and that the reality will be, that a Windows 7 user can upgrade their computer and will be completely at home. The start menu evolved. It's not the exact same start menu. It makes sense it would be a little different. It's a new version.
Right.
Likewise, a Windows 8 guy on a tablet or a Surface 2-in-1, whatever, upgrade to Windows 10. So yeah, great. Again, evolved. It's not exactly the same, but it's better. And I just getting those apps down onto the desktop, it's so stupid because it's like the simplest idea.
Right.
And it's
Right.
profound how that impacts the platform. Nobody was writing apps for this platform.
I went back and read writing Windows app or program for Windows with C#. It was, and I call it the Pretzel book, yeah, because of the guy's last name.
Yep.
And it was interesting reading. It's like you could snap two apps side by side. I'm like, well, what if that was in a floating window?
This is the type of thing that's impressive if you're running an iPad. As a PC user, what are you talking about? You've
Right.
brought us back to 1988. Thanks.
Right. Woohoo!
Yeah, great.
Solid. So that was cool. And then I'm running Windows 10 on a Sony Vaio, like top of the line NVIDIA i7, quad, the whole thing. I've never had a more stable version of Windows. Is that insane or what? Like, it's
Most
insane.
stable for me. I've had some weird performance issues over the past couple of days on the machine I'm using now, which is my desktop. I don't know that it's related to 10 exactly, although today it's been great. So, I mean, I've installed it on everything. I don't knee jerk, but yet, this thing comes out and I'm like, install.
I know.
And then it's like, I hope this actually works.
I know.
Now that I've been installing it on everything, so I get excited.
Yeah, you look around, you're like,
Yeah.
well, darn, I bought the whole IKEA set. No,
Yeah.
So having said that, what do you think What are your favorite features of Windows 10?
Well, I mean, honestly, so far it's just so stupid. I mean, I really have spent the last couple of years trying to adapt to this new way of doing things. You were joking about Snap and everything. I'd do Windows Weekly and I'd snap, one note on one side and the desktop on the other with the.
Oh no, I hear you.
I try,
Yeah.
and I feel like,
I call it little adventures.
Yeah. So now that they've brought this Metro stuff, well, actually they've taken it away. They've let you run the apps on the desktop. Start menu I don't really care about. That to me has been somewhat profound. There needs to be a better integration. For example, if I'm using the Skype mobile app instead of the desktop app, it doesn't sit there and flash on the taskbar when I get a new message. It gives me that notification slice, which sometimes I miss. The mail app doesn't give me a little number saying, hey, by the way, you've got 3 unread emails. That kind of thing would be nice, that level of integration.
Okay.
But the ability to use those apps, as I do other apps, has already been a big difference. Like, I actually do use those apps. So it's not perfect yet. I'm adapting in a different way, but the ability to just be back on the desktop and not be ashamed of that, I think is kind of a big deal. And to me, that's what's great about it. I mean, the weird thing is, Windows 10 is going to be a revelation to hundreds of millions of people because they skipped Windows 8.
Right.
But the reason it's going to be a revelation by and large is going to be stuff that actually started in Windows 8 and they just didn't know.
Right, because they didn't even want to take the time out.
Right.
Like,
I can copy 2 files at the same time and my computer doesn't stop working. That's amazing.
Right. Our fly between desktop, I just all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest complaints with 8 was the not having that taskbar at the bottom when I needed to get some work done as far as like the snippet tool, because I'm working with Photoshop or something, and I'm looking at something in IE and I'm like, are you kidding me with this? Like, where's my tools? I have no tools, to knock this out with. So that was driving me crazy. But I think the biggest thing for that Windows 10 for me was, and I know this is the smallest thing, but the fact that they were in the minimize larger, like the windows, the floating windows. That was it. I mean, that was really it for me when I was using it and showing people. Like, now I'm bringing the Sony along and I'm just showing people what's going on. They're like, I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Right in the past, it was like, oh, you're using Windows 8, and you're like, yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I look. I mean, there are people who like Windows 8, and they really do like it, and they want to use Windows that way, and they're going to be very happy with Windows 10. But for that vast majority of people that looked at Windows 8, like, what is this? I think Windows 10 is going to get them back, and I think that's a big deal.
Absolutely. I think it's a huge deal and very necessary. So another quick thing is, what has it been like to watch your kids grow up with the different versions of technology? Because it starts off with the feature phones, and then next thing you know, you're on some TouchWiz, and you're like, I don't even know what that sounds dirty to me. Probably shouldn't be having that on. No. So what has it been like to watch that evolution? Because I mean, you're a proud father. I mean, you don't hide about it. You like to play Call of Duty with your kid. In fact, if you want to talk about that, we can. But that's awesome stuff. And what has it been like to kind of manage that and kind of look at that over time?
Well, I mean, it's funny because I was literally just talking to my wife about this morning. I mean, one of the issues with technology is too much technology. Kids got his face in the screen or something. My daughter can sit up
for technology's sake,
an iPad for literally 13 hours in a row, and you want to be careful of that kind of stuff. Fortunately, my kids are very healthy and thin, and they love playing in sports and dance and whatever they do, and they're out in the world, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, my son grew up with Xboxes. My son grew up with the stuff that I have, and they both have smartphones now. They're on like Snapchat. They both use PCs. My daughter actually has a hand-me-down Mac Air, but it's running Windows 7. They're both on Windows 7. That's not any plot on my part or any anything about Windows 8. I just get rid of them. I don't really look at those computers all that much. But wife uses
that problem will take care of itself.
I don't know. Everyone's on Netflix. I mean, it's interesting. Like my son has developed a sense of humor similar to mine, and so I've been on the receiving end of some of his jokes. He'll walk in the room one time, 6 months ago, whatever it was. Actually, I guess it would have been last year. So sometime last year, before the Xbox One came out, he walked in and he says, "Yeah," he goes, "I heard this thing about they're going to announce Xbox One in April or whatever it was, and blah blah blah." And I said, I'm thinking, actually, yes, this information came from me, and so I started to say, "Well, yes, Mark," and then he says, "But I know it's not true because some jackass named Paul Thurrott said it," and, and I was like, "Okay," and that's the type of stuff I get, from my kids. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, you gotta, because my wife, she loves to dig me when she can, so I gotta imagine if I had multiple. Yeah,
it's fascinating getting it from like the younger generation now.
Yeah, you're great. Awesome.
No, I mean, I try to ensure that they're not overdosing on it. Not always successfully. I mean, like I said, I was just talking to my wife about this because I think, it's like in the old days, you stick a kid in front of a TV. Yeah. Today you can stick a kid in front of an iPad, and I think that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah, way too many screens. We hopped in the car, Kevin and I, with somebody, and then they had it was not a minivan, but the equivalent to that, and you had the 2 drop-down screens, you had the Kindle Fire screens, you had iPads in there, you had Bose headphones that go, and you're just like, what was life? I mean, what did I used to do? I guess I used to fall asleep in the back of the seat when I was riding in a car somewhere.
You could make up things. You would.
Yeah, but now
stuff you saw on the street.
It's just intense. You watch Mad Men. You see, you think, what is my kid being, just bombarded with right now? Advertising and games and these shiny colors and these shiny things. I mean, am I teaching them to see something shiny and say, "Bird"?
Yeah, I want.
Buy. And and the infinite supply of money. So it's interesting to me, and I was just kind of curious on your thoughts on that wise. So let's get into what are your thoughts on the consumer focus for Windows? Because we've seen the technical preview now come out for business. We've seen this possibility of the Microsoft Watch. What do you think the current state of the consumer focus of Windows is? I mean, I watch a lot of football, and the commercials with the ridiculous why they chose a song for the friggin' Surface Pro 3 ad, I will never know because it's the most annoying thing ever. But go.
So I think there's a distinct possibility that Microsoft will never actually be successful with consumers, not in the way that Google is or Apple is. They talk a good game. I mean, this notion of dual use makes sense. There's no such thing as a business user. We're all people too, and that means we're consumers, and we want both things in our phones. And yep, we do. But we want that phone to be an Android phone or an iPhone, typically, unfortunately.
Right.
And so I think Microsoft returning to the business side of Windows 10 makes plenty of sense because that's really where their core market is and their core strengths are. I don't think they should ever give up on the consumer stuff. I happen to like a lot of their consumer businesses quite a bit. Outlook.com, OneDrive, Xbox Music, whatever. But I don't see a lot of people using that stuff personally.
Me neither.
Windows Phone maybe falls into that category.
It's
all great, but yeah.
Well, we have a Windows Phone meetup group that we're a part of, and there's one guy, Evan. It cracks me up because like when he sees somebody with a Windows Phone, he runs up to them like madly. I'm like, you need to stop doing that. Because somebody's going to mace you or possibly hurt you. Sure. It's interesting to see that kind of out in the wild and wonder why isn't there more consumer-facing stuff? I mean, if they're going to do it, why do it half-heartedly? Why not just go all the way and say, put these in celebrities' hands or put these in this and put these in that? Not Alicia Keys' BlackBerry thing, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think they do actually try to do what they can do. I mean, it's hard to be heard above the din, especially around the Apple stuff. Apple is like this, cycle that feeds on itself. The media is fascinated by it. People are fascinated by it, and it just kind of keeps going and going. Microsoft does something like get their Surface products onto the NFL sideline, and the story is like, oh, I wonder how much they paid for that. Because that's obviously the only way that would ever happen.
Right.
The truth is, there was a great story about in the New York Times you probably know about where they explained exactly what Microsoft had to do to get that deal,
right,
and beat out a bunch of people, and had to adapt Surface in various ways to meet the really stringent needs of the NFL.
Oh, it was intense.
A very intense process, and that is something that you should applaud, not make fun of. That deal. I mean, so. That kind of stuff is big. Every once in a while, you'll see Windows computers that don't exist in the real world with the light-up window logo, which, by the way, they should sell.
I know. That would have been hot, right?
Right. I mean, people want that kind of stuff. I don't know. But Microsoft is in a weird position where they really can't do anything right. Someone is going to be upset by whatever it is, and they're never going to please everyone, and I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah, and with this, the OEMs, their frustration with the Surface line and with them going after and getting Nokia and all that. So that's been a concern. But I really hope that there's the loyalists that are there that really do care about, and that really do enjoy using the products. There can be an expansion of that. I hope that it's a fad to pick on Microsoft, and like eventually the hipsters will stop being hipsters and start hipstering themselves, because I can't stand hipsters. And start going against the man, which has that device. So let's switch to Apple real fast. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on Apple's new leadership? I mean, there's been a lot of change, since Steve Jobs has passed. What are your overall thoughts on this new Apple?
So if you would ask me this question 6 months ago, I would have said something highly uncomplimentary. And it's sort of like asking, how did Steve Ballmer do after Bill Gates left as CEO?
Right.
Not too good, by many measures. But same thing with Tim Cook. But how do you follow someone like Steve Jobs, right? You can't pretend to be like that. It's fake. He was so hardcore in the way that he was, it would be impossible to find someone else like that.
Especially with a southern draw, you're not going to be able to pull it off. I'm just messing, Tim. Just messing.
Yeah. But now you see the influence of someone who's not Steve Jobs and how that can be positive. You see him opening the product in ways that Steve Jobs never would have done. Just the ability to put a custom keyboard in iOS, which is like, amazing. The ability to extend sharing so the third parties can get in there. It's not all iCloud all the time,
Right.
or just a couple of, favorites like, Facebook or Twitter. That kind of stuff is huge. Mac OS 10 Mavericks, not Mavericks, Yosemite, the new version, was basically publicly tested. I think they released 6 different versions of it. That's unheard of in the annals of Apple.
Right.
Hopefully they do the same thing with iOS. Because, what you discover, it's funny how these things happen side by side. Now, we don't know, Yosemite just came out, but iOS, because of the closed way it was always developed, they would ship a major update and then within days have to ship an update to fix problems that were suddenly found out in the world.
Right.
You saw that again this year where they put out 801, completely borked people's phones, had to put out an 802 within a few more days after that. Well, maybe if iOS 8 had been publicly tested like Yosemite was, that type of thing wouldn't have happened. And you know what? I bet the next version they do that. And that is the positive impact we see from Tim Cook not being Steve Jobs,
Right.
And we'll see. I mean, I think that iOS has some deeper issues around just the user experience and whatnot that hopefully they can address that stuff. But so far this year, I mean, like the last 6 months, the stuff I've seen has been really impressive.
So what specifically, like the new Sway, or not Sway, I'm sorry, or whatever they call the bird-looking, somebody help me out here, I'm falling down. The Swift, that's it.
Oh, the Swift programming language, yeah.
The Swift programming language. Is that, do you feel like that is them trying to become more Microsoft-esque in the way like C# is kind of for Microsoft? I mean, specifically going, you know what, Xcode, and now we have Swift, and now we have all these things we're trying to isolate and say you're only going to develop for us.
Well, that was, I mean, you were only ever going to do that anyway, right? So
Sure.
I actually think the weakest link in the whole Apple thing is the developer environment and the development, not the SDK, not the the framework, but the language, Objective-C, which is, I think it's horrible, and you get kind of a Stockholm syndrome thing going on there with people who develop in this environment. But I mean, I think anyone who was using Visual Studio and C# or whatever, Visual Basic, or even Eclipse, with Java, would look at this thing and be like, really? Like, really? This is what you're using? And so in many ways, the biggest success Apple's had for all the iPods and iPhones and iPads was we've gotten millions of developers to adopt Xcode and Objective-C.
Arguably one of the worst languages ever.
Yeah. Great. Okay. The alternative to fixing this is you open it up. And I actually do kind of think they get there, right? You remember when they were blocking those Adobe apps and that kind of stuff?
I do, yeah.
But this is sort of an interim step. Let's see if we can create a simpler language that, on day one is not going to be 100% of everything you need to create an iOS or a Mac OS 10 app. But, we'll see how they do. I sort of don't think we need yet another language, I guess. I'm kind of in that camp at this point. But
hey, as a dev, I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see them open it up. I'd give anything to be able to, for developers to be able to write iOS apps in Visual Studio or C#. That'd be amazing.
Other than paying, the Xamarin license.
Well, I mean, but in other words, if
I see what
if Microsoft actually supported that natively, of course.
Oh, God, that'd be gorgeous.
They probably never will, but
right.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I would as well. So that's pretty positive, and I wanted people to know that you weren't just hating on whatever. It was just like
Well, you never know what I'm going to say to that question.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. It depends on the day, JJ. So what are your thoughts on Android's continued push to take over the world?
I mean,
it's scary, right? I mean, it's not to interrupt, but my thought on this is what the PC was, or this is what Windows was, and it's just for mobile, and it's like a wildfire, and there's just no end in sight.
So yes, at a very basic level, it's fair to say that Android is the new Windows. There's no doubt that that's true. The big differences, though, are that the market that Android addresses, just in phones and tablets, right, is, I mean, exponentially bigger than the PC market ever was or ever will be. And so that alone makes it, far more impressive in many ways. And of course, Android is now being pushed onto watches, other wearables, and all kinds of other devices. And so there's that aspect of it. But with Windows, the way that Microsoft made money was they sold Windows. Like that is how they made money.
Right.
Google, they don't make money selling Android. They make money selling ads. And that makes Android really scary from a different standpoint because it's almost like a virus. And I don't mean that in a computer sense. I mean in the sense that it's so, well, I guess I do. In the sense that it's easy, in the sense that it's easy to spread it because it's like zero friction.
Right.
So, the only way that Microsoft retroactively can compete is literally to drop the price of Windows.
And that zero-sum game comes up, and you've talked about that several times. It's this race to the bottom that just never ends.
Yeah, and that's a problem because Microsoft doesn't have this other stream of revenue yet. I mean, to Microsoft's credit, by the way that they're trying to make money is by selling products and services that are technology, that we're going to sell you a subscription to Outlook.com or something, or to
and just
Office
make it the best possible one. Like if you're going to do it right. And I feel that I only use Windows products. So when
it's more respectable, right? When you talk about, I'm a tech enthusiast and I only use, Android. It's like, well, what? I mean, you're basically supporting like, and by the way, I like Android. I have no problem with Android really, as far as using it. But I mean, ultimately, you got to remember what's going on here. You're supporting like an advertising campaign.
Exactly.
It's really about
it tracks you.
And it's weird, right? It's maybe no weirder than Samsung also sells washers and dryers, and Sony also sells insurance, I guess. But and maybe I don't know. Maybe this shouldn't be weird to me because TV, newspapers, magazines have always been ad supported. I don't know, but Google is ultimately they're an advertising company who has a lot of money, and so they can do these technology products that exist so that they can sell their advertising. And it's a different way of doing things, and it still makes me a little uncomfortable as I use all their products and services every day.
Well, with the Edward Snowden thing and everything that comes out, I was looking around and nobody's like. So my thing is they track you, and even you wrote about this. They're like they don't look at 10 years worth of data. Well, hold on a second.
Sure,
it's like sure you don't, liar. I mean, how are we ever going to prove that? But whatever. But the point was. When all this stuff came out and all these revelations, I'm like, then how is Google going to make money? I mean, if people don't want to be tracked, then how are they going to track you? I mean, because that's their source of income. I mean, is that a crazy thought?
Well, it is a company full of smart people, and they'll always figure out a way. I mean, we've already seen that mobile ads don't do as well financially as display ads on a computer or whatever, and
Sure.
Obviously, the world's heading to mobile, and they're part of the reason why, and so they'll have to figure that one out, I guess. But I do worry about that stuff. I look at the new Google L stuff, and I think this is really attractive. It's nice design. How are they going to muck this up with mobile ads? And
Sure.
I guess in the core Google apps, you're not going to have to worry about that stuff. But that's also a little bit insidious, right? So you get an Android phone where the Google apps are all pure and clean and everything, but for someone else to make money on that platform, they have to put ads in, which, by the way, are coming through Google. So, it's
right.
It is kind of a weird little
system.
I have to be a little hypocritical of it because the truth is I use Google stuff and I can complain about it, I guess, but they're kind of a reality. There's not much. You'd really have to try. People write articles, the Google free life, 30 days. Well, yeah, because it's really hard to do. I mean, you could ignore other things much more easily than you could ignore Google.
That's very difficult. So I want to, not to rush you here, but the gamer inside of me wants to know, what is your favorite game? What is your favorite gaming system, and what was your favorite games?
I mean,
you don't have to pick just one. You can have a couple of them. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing Xbox for a long time, so I have a hard time getting past it. I've tried different. I have PS3, PS4, and I don't really ever use them. I tried the Amazon Fire thing out in the living room and the OnLive player and all that kind of stuff, and handheld video games and touch and whatever. But I mean, ultimately, what I like is the shooter stuff. It always has been from the very earliest days of Castle Wolfenstein, which is the first thing that drew me to the PC platform. This genius John Carmack could figure out a way to move in real time going forward, which is something the Amiga couldn't do with all its co-processors and special graphics power and so forth. That was amazing to me.
Nice.
And you can kind of follow that progression through all the id games and the id-like games and Duke Nukem and up through Call of Duty, and of course that's most of what I've been doing for the past, several years now. So, favorite one, I don't know. I mean, I like the Call of Duty stuff. I don't know. Xbox One. The truth is, I would probably be better off using an Xbox 360 right now than an Xbox One because I like the Call of Duty stuff, and only the most recent Call of Duty is on this platform, and
Right.
all I ever do on it is play Call of Duty. So,
Right.
what is the point? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's to talk to it. Remember? No. So
I do
that's
think
really,
Xbox record that. I gleefully enjoy. That is a good.
yeah. Your kill shots there.
It's not $500 worth of good, but it's
It's definitely awesome. So the other thing that the one of the last things I'll ask you here is you are a champion of Windows Phone, period. So
Yeah.
what does Microsoft need to do to pick up the rate of the Windows Phone adoption in the wild?
I mean, they've really floundered, and I still have not written this yet, but I've been meaning to write for a long time how different Windows Phone is today from when it launched. Microsoft launched this thing as an iPhone competitor. It was a high-end phone. It was a phone for consumers, not for businesses. They specifically ignored businesses with the original release of Windows Phone. Today it's trying to be everything to everybody, and they've made a lot of concessions in the system to try to attract people who are used to kind of dumb home screens where you launch an app, you go back home, you launch another app. They've
Yeah.
gotten away from some of the stuff that I thought was really cool about Windows Phone, the integrated hubs and those panoramic
That was
experiences and
awesome.
so forth. Yeah, really good, really great ideas. But they're only great ideas if you kind of follow through, on them. I mean,
Yeah.
they never made those things extensible. You could never add Flickr to the photos, the Pictures Hub or whatever. Too bad. So
I know you're like, oh God, I
it's too
died a
bad.
little inside.
But I always thought, even the original Silverlight stuff, I always thought the development environment was fantastic and simple, and that anyone could pick it up pretty easily. Um, Obviously, fairly liberal licensing terms as far as getting your stuff in the store. Um, Literally, if you have a fart app that you think would be great today, Windows Phone is there for you. They will, no doubt, approve of that thing immediately. Um,
It's like the express line.
yeah, but I think that they've settled into a strategy that makes sense a little too late, which is the low end of the market, the volume part of the market. It's the thing that Windows kind of always did. When Windows NT came up in the world, they undercut Unix,
Right.
right?
Right.
This is the right way to do it. They're competing with Android though, which is the problem. And those guys are really voracious and they're doing the same kind of stuff. And so I feel it's like I'm glad that there are so many phone makers that are going to put up Windows Phone versions of their phones. But the truth is that most people, if you look at these two phones side by side, one's Android, Windows Phone. Realistically speaking, most people are going to pick Android, not because it's better, but because it has all the apps and it's got the ecosystem. And that kind of head start is hard to overcome. So I think they're on the right path. The question is how long they can continue on this path. And I think the merging of the Windows and Windows Phone code bases and developer model and universal apps and all that stuff will help. They need to. It's funny. This is sad. Windows could be helped so much right now by letting Windows Phone, just Windows Phone games, let them run on tablets. Right now, they could do that
Oh
right now.
yeah, that would be
It
solid.
would, but it is maybe a statement to how bad the Windows market is for modern apps. That's the truth because
Right.
this phone is terrible. Comparatively speaking to Android or iOS, but a lot of good games.
Yeah, yeah. It would
Uh,
be nice to have the influx of
yeah,
attention to that experience because like I said, I'm still a fan.
yeah.
And I've been a fan from the get-go, and I think
I
it,
don't
it would
ever
be
miss anything.
it
Like I
would
use
just
Windows
be
Phone every day.
fun.
I love it. I've never once thought,
Yeah,
wow, I wish this thing had the Gmail app or,
yeah. I got my 1520. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. This big honking 1520. I swear, the
I
battery life alone is the
yeah.
reason why I use the thing.
I took all my vacation photos with that phone this year. Amazing.
Yeah, it's been great. I got the
Yep.
1020 over there and everything. So I want to push the things that you do. Let's talk about what is the easiest way that we can help you make more money,
Wow.
and thereby let's start with your books.
Yeah, so this is going to change soon, but I'm working on a series of books. Some are done, some are not done. Some are in progress, and so you can find that stuff. It's actually fieldguidebooks.com, but if you go to windows81book.com, I'm starting to collect all of the books in one location because that was getting a little hard to keep control of. And
Okay.
so, yeah, it's $2. A Windows 81 book. It's cheap. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So that'd be nice. You could buy a book. you know.
There you go.
Update it and stuff. It's
Bring the family and tell them all about it.
I'll update it for Windows 10.
Yeah, it'll be it'll be glorious. And people should definitely do that. So say that one more time, just so they can.
The easiest one is Windows81book.com. Yeah.
Windows81book.com. Yeah. So, and that's really difficult to get Windows in a domain name, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I'm gonna walk away from that because so I'm ready. There's one about Xbox Music, Windows Phone, obviously. I mean, I'll do eventually over time Office 365 and Outlook.com and things like that. So
should be required reading for the retail store reps. Well, in fact, just everybody. Everybody should go buy the book and read it.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And also winsupersite.com, and people can find you on Twitter as well at Thurrott, your last name Thurrott.
Yeah, pretty easy to spell last name.
Yeah. So Kevin, did you have any final questions?
I did, but it's probably one that's going to take a long time to answer. I was really curious to know, Paul, how you really got into covering technology and being a journalist. I mean, you've been doing this for 20 plus years. So, I mean, surely you've seen a lot of stuff, and curious how you got into this path.
Tell us, oh wise one.
So I never intended to end up where I am now. I guess that's the way of things. I had gone back to school for computers, for computer programming, and I got in touch with a guy who was a professor, was writing a book, it was a book about Visual Basic, wanted me to help tech edit it, and then perhaps write part of it, and then perhaps write most of it, and then perhaps just maybe write it. And it sort of went from there. And I'd asked him later, what made you think that I could write this book? And he says, I could just tell, which is the most worthless advice of all time. So thanks for nothing, Gary. But he did get me, but he got me started, which was great. And so a lot of the early stuff that I did was books. And the stuff that I do now is really based around the fact that I was working for the school that he was a professor at, and I was kind of amazed at how little a lot of the people who worked at the school, in that part of the school, both CIS and CSE departments, knew about the computer industry, what the recent trends were, and so forth. And so I started sending out what became a newsletter, which was just, here's a story that was in PC Week, a little blurb, or a story that was in Information Week, these little kind of industry rags we had at the time. Here's why I think this is important. Here's why I think you need to know about this. And these guys would say, well, this is really great. Could I give this out to my students? Could I give this, and then the students would say, could I, I have good friends who would like to read this, and kind of open it up, and it kind of went from there. And so, we were involved in the Microsoft beta programs, which used to be in CompuServe, so back, Windows 4.0 and Plus and Office 95 and MSN, the original online service they did, and kind of went from there, so.
Nice.
Yeah, I kind of walked into it backwards, I guess. I don't know.
Backwards is what I always say.
Yeah.
And you had a mullet then. Let's not forget. No, I'm just kidding.
I probably did. Yeah.
I'd like to say I would probably if it was still in, just because all business in the front and party in the back, right? The other, we'll have to have you back on because I would love to know who you think's going to win in the gigantic tech wars. Google, Apple, Microsoft,
Okay.
Amazon.
Sure.
They go into, it's like the Royal Rumble or whatever. If the OK Corral, let's just do this. Who you think wider ends it turns up to be. I would love to get those thoughts. So anytime you want to come back on the show, the door is always open.
No, anytime, just ask. I mean, I'm happy to do it. Not to put
it's been
responsibility
phenomenal
back in your hands, but I mean, I am happy to do it.
Awesome.
Real quick, one more other little thing, Paul. I don't know. We've got St. Louis Days of .NET coming back up again, and I know the organizers have reached out to you in the past years about possibly coming out.
Okay.
What's your availability in November, mid-November?
Mid-November this year. So, I will need to check, but I'm not against it. I would be happy to do that actually. There is. I'm trying to think what it was. Just early November. I have one possibility for travel in early November, but it's not mid-November. So you're talking about like middle of November?
Yeah, it's like 13th to the 15th.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
weekend.
I might actually be available for that. So why don't you email me?
Yeah, we'll make the
About
contact.
that and
See what we can do.
We'll shoot that on over.
I
But no,
I haven't been there in a long time.
Yeah, love to have you back.
Yeah, it's not in what's going on in St. Louis. It's outside of the city a little, so you be good.
Right. Right.
You
Well,
be good. You won't get hit by tear gas. Let's just say
sure.
that. No, again, I'm a huge fan of yours. Thank you so much for coming on. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see what you do more. I visit your site at least twice a day.
Okay.
And I'm not a freak. I'm not a psycho. So there's one in the belt, right? So thank you so much for everything that you do, and I look forward to listening to you again. So thank you again from me and Kevin. I hope you have a great and wonderful rest of your day, sir.
Thank you very much. You too. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, take care, Paul.
Thanks, guys. Now I got to figure out how to hang this thing up.
I always default to the red X in the top right-hand corner of the screen.
Oh yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye,
Later.
All right, JJ, there you go. Paul Thurrott.
There you go.
Yeah.
Paul Thurrott.
So everybody,
Arguably one of my more favorite people in the entire universe.
right. I know.
And you know
Paul's
what?
great.
Daryl, I don't care if your daughter doesn't like the fact that I enjoy talking to these people. I haven't given him a shout out in a while, so I wanted to do that.
Yeah. Daryl's great.
Yeah, no, all of our fans are great. Even the ones that don't talk to us in silence and they download the show and don't give us any feedback, that doesn't bother us.
Just talk
Whatever.
with us. Let us know who you'd like to
Right.
us to talk with and who'd you like to hear from, and et cetera, et cetera. But, give us questions. I mean, prompt us. Suggestions, topics, things. We want to make this as much your show as it is ours. We're just the ones that have fun doing it. So.
I listen. Honestly, I could have talked to him for another like 2 hours easy.
Why no? I mean, gosh, we were almost pushing an hour just with the interview portion. That's
I know.
normally.
So before he comes on the show, I'm like, it'll be maybe 30, 45 minutes. I lie my butt off when I say that. I should really just say, you know what? You just need to block out your afternoon.
I mean, like I tell everybody when we're setting these things up, it's great conversations are tough to end.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't want to sound like you don't
tell.
give a crap, You don't want to sound like, I'm rushing you off the line, because that's not it at all,
You can always tell the guests are enjoying themselves. Otherwise, to be real short with their answers, you would be able to tell. So.
Hey, I just want to say something real quick, Kevin. I don't have anything against people with the ability not to speak very well, but on our show, you and I and our guests do a phenomenal job of being able to talk. It seems as though when I listen to other shows or like when I do that, what drives me up the wall is when I'm listening to someone who has a weird thing to their voice. Doesn't that just drive you? No, but
I know what you mean, though.
You know what I'm talking about and how much I enjoy our conversation. So let's continue and let's bring the sexy. Let's start talking about.
Oh, let's not get crazy now.
Nudes. Oh, we are. That ship sailed like 30 years ago when I was born. So, Kevin, get us started with the Tech Informist News Rundown.
All right. So last week, we spoke with Russell Holly. That show focused mainly on the Android Google Nexus releases that came out and officially unveiled. Well, not Microsoft, Apple also had a little event that kind of like flew under the radar to a certain segment of the population, obviously. But they released their new iPad Air 2 and iPad Mini 3 by, just the newest versions, and a couple little other things like the 5K display on the new upcoming iMacs and the Mac Mini starting at $499. Talking a little bit about the iPad Air 2, still 9.7-inch display, 2048 1536 resolution, but it has 3.1 million pixels, and we're talking like a whole bunch of pixels per inch, 10 hours battery life, the 64-bit architecture with their Apple A8X chip, and they went with the Touch ID technology with this. So they're bringing over some stuff from the iPhone 5S and obviously the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, so be able to do all kinds of things with Touch ID. The rear-facing camera, I just don't even like talking about tablets and rear-facing cameras because that's not what tablets and iPads and things are really for. But it has an 8-megapixel rear-facing iSight camera. I wish they would have focused a little bit more on the front-facing camera because that's what tablets really should be used for. Not taking pictures, portrait pictures and stuff like that. That's no. iPad Mini 3, 7.9-inch display with 2048 by 1536 resolution. So same resolution, 326 pixels per inch, Touch ID, etc., etc. So that's going to be
I'm
really.
telling you, I'm gonna smack somebody that pays with that freaking iPad. I'm just gonna lose it.
Speaking of that, a lot of companies like Panera Bread, which is known here in St. Louis as St. Louis Bread Company, but Panera Bread, around the rest of the country. Today was the first day that they started accepting Apple Pay. So that service is now, hit the ground running. So I'm really curious what people's experience has been so far on that. I mean, I don't have an iPhone 6 or anything, so I can't really test that out in the store. But, let us know. I'd really like to know what your experience is with it if you've already tried it in the restaurant or any of the other places that we're going to be using Apple Pay.
I don't know if I can threaten people on the show. But yeah, it was funny because one of our previous shows I was talking about, I don't even know what I'm going to say to a person when I see them go, let me pay with this. And they whip out their iPad Air 2, and they're just like, I will pay you now.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be very interesting. If you get an iPad Air 2 with LTE and somebody goes to pay, I'll be like, really?
I'm going to look like a linebacker just flying out of nowhere.
You're seriously going to use an iPad to make a payment instead of just swiping a card or something.
I'm just kidding. I think that's okay. I don't think that we should, hate on people who want to make lives easier on themselves, which is not what I want to do. I'm totally just joking. I like to be fun and have fun.
Yeah, so I think for me, I just appreciate people using the technology that's available to them. Sometimes I just don't understand why certain technologies and certain devices.
Yeah, and I do think that people are going to, it's more ubiquitous with the NFC technology, will become more ubiquitous. I think NFC, mobile payments and all those things will be a lot more fun to have. So I am really looking forward to that when that comes out. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing what the difference is in the display. I noticed that on the new iMacs, there's a 5K display. I'm really interested in that. So for our listeners, there are a group of guys who will just destroy anything, and they're iFixit. Now, they don't pay us, and there's not this isn't an advertisement by far, because I know nobody over there. But I do like watching technology because I like taking apart stuff. I think it's fun to see what makes it run and work and all those kinds of things. They just destroy stuff sometimes, and it's really neat. I believe you're the one who told me about this. So go check it out. It's iFixit. I think they have. Do they have like apps other than on Windows? I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, they've got iOS and Android apps, and obviously you can just go to the website themselves and watch videos and tutorials
website, and on YouTube, I think too, right?
Oh yeah. Learn how to take your devices apart. I mean,
or not, because me and Kevin both can agree on something. It's really difficult taking those things apart now without breaking the crap out of these things,
replacing smartphone displays is not the easiest thing in the world. I'll just say that.
No, it isn't. I get a text from Kevin or an email, JJ, I don't want to do this as a business.
No,
this would be an awful job.
Not happening. Device repair will not be a part of it.
Nope, absolutely not. Kevin, your next story, sir.
All right, so Destiny, a lot of people play Destiny, obviously, and there are, an average of like 3.2 million people playing Destiny per day, just in a little over a month since it launched. I mean, it's not quite the numbers of World of Warcraft, which still has approximately 6.8 million users on average playing per day. But man, that game has just been hot, and unfortunately, I still don't have it.
You know
Maybe
what
if
I
I did, I wouldn't have time to play it.
Right,
So
right. Oh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't let you. No, I'm just kidding.
I
So
know you wouldn't.
the one interesting thing is the marketing for this game has been really, really well done. To me,
Yes.
when I watch this game, I'm just like, this is really neat. It's like it's right up my alley. The sense of humor and all that kind of thing is really cool. The reason why we're bringing it up in the Tech Informa show is we want to tell you guys this game. I mean, it's going to consume people's lives. So be on the lookout for this, and if you haven't already bought it and you're not playing it, you probably will be, because at the rate in which the adoption of this game is going, it's nothing but up, and that's crazy. I wonder what the Sunset Overdrive numbers are going to look like. That's going to
I
be
don't know if
interesting.
that's coming out real soon. I know, been getting emails, pre-order the Sunset Overdrive
I know.
bundle.
I mean,
Something like,
that's been crazy. So one story that really caught my eye, and Kev was like, "No, no, we'll save it for the next show," was the thought of being able to visit my doctor or a doctor via Google, like a chat window. Okay, so searching for on the web, if you search for a problem, like hey, I got some knee pain or there's bone sticking out of my leg,
yeah,
what am I gonna do?
typical WebMD stuff.
Yeah, WebMD stuff. There's now a little consult with a doctor option that comes up on the screen. It says talk with the doctor now. You're like, based on your search results, we think you are trying to understand a medical condition. Well, yeah, I just got stung by a rattlesnake or something. How do you get the venom out? I got stung on the rear end. I don't know. There was a movie about that or something. Anyways, so this was just interesting to me. Kevin, what do you think our first trial of this should be like? I have a burning sensation when I use the
Oh
restroom.
gosh, yeah, no, no.
No. Do you think, I mean, how accurate or I mean, what kinds of things do you see out of this? Do you see this being more ubiquitous? I mean, I could see a world in which you have a Connect and you're it tells you to walk around the room or something. It diagnoses maybe some physicality things that it can find and then ships that over to the doctor and stuff. I've said that before on shows where you walk into your doctor's office and there's actually, as you're walking down the hallway, there's cameras that pick up on your body language and movement, things like that. Do you see that being a possibility for the future?
I think so. I think that would be pretty neat if you're going to go to your doctor's office and, for example, you're walking down the hall and cameras are, kind of noticing that you're walking with a limp or a kind of like a little hitch in your step and you don't realize it. By the time you get to that appointment, the doctor will be like, hey, we noticed that you're kind of walking with, this little, you're walking not right. Not walking right, whatever you want to say. I think that would be really neat. And with the whole aspect of, typically there's your primary doctor's not on call all the time, so the doctor's office will have an on-call doctor that you can call, after hours. Well, I think this kind of would be a nice way to do it. Have a kind of an in-person, not really in-person, but face-to-face. And by doing, similar to what we're doing now, and you can talk to that doctor and you kind of explain it instead of dealing with the phone call. And I think that's kind of an interesting way to do that. So I think that would be really neat.
Yeah, so it's cool. I mean, I think and it's called Help Outs, and it's I believe, yeah. So let me just
it's a little help out style kind of thing.
Yeah, it's in the trial phase. So there's tons of comments on the thread. We'll have the link to this story in the show notes. Kevin, you're up with your next story, sir.
All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about is Microsoft's keyboard on an Android Wear watch.
What the what?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, JJ, you've got our LG G watch, so you could be trying this out over there, but you can.
Hey, I listened to Jerry Hiltonbrand from Android Central, and he said that it was a thing to try to put it on there. So if he says it's a thing, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have time for a thing.
Yeah, so this keyboard works by you draw each letter, and that's kind of going to be like a pain in the butt in a way. It's kind of like Minimum, that keyboard that's like really super tiny, and people were like, there's a big fuss over when they first released the idea of putting that on there. People were like, no, why do I need a keyboard on my smartwatch? And when you've got voice input. obviously there's certain situations where it might be best to be quiet, but you still want to use your smartwatch and not pull out your phone. Subtle little reasons. So yeah, whenever one of us will get a chance to try this thing out and see
I'll
what
do
happens.
it. I'll do it. I just need just a couple more days, and then I'll put
You
it
just
on
need
there.
some time. I know we've been super busy here
In a
scheduling.
good way. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it's been phenomenal. So I'm not complaining at all. Another thing I hate on shows when people complain. The next story that we have, which is the Lenovo Yoga 3. Now I'm not going to get too into the weeds with this here, but I also want to just convey everyone should go check this thing out. I mean, it's definitely worth seeing the type of computing devices that are going to be coming out for the holiday season. I
Yeah.
say that because this thing looks gorgeous. I mean, and I know I say that a lot about stuff, a lot about different technology, but I think that this has a really good shot of being a non-Microsoft made device, not a Surface Pro device, of really just showing OEMs and consumers what kind of sexy, cool device could be in your hands.
Yeah. I mean, just looking
The
at the
only downside.
photos of this thing's so slim. It's like, wow.
I know, and it's got the yoga now, mind you, has it does the flex back or it takes the screen and you can rotate it a full 360 degrees to where it's more of a tablet mode. And on the other side, the keys, it's not ridiculous. You know what I mean? Sometimes, depending on the device, it can be a little. You know what I'm talking about? The keyboard.
Yeah, with the Yoga Pro, like the original Yoga Pro, which I used to do some work with. Whenever you flip that around, the keys kind of recess up into the keyboard, so you're not accidentally pressing the keys and it making it do something funky. So it's pretty nice.
So it's got an Intel Core M70 processor. Guess what it isn't, Kevin?
It's not quad. It's just the mobile processor.
Why? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of reasons, and people send me information. Send me why in the world would somebody want to buy something that's not quad core nowadays. I don't get it.
It depends on your needs.
13.3-inch QHD plus display. That's 3200 by 1800. So that's a high resolution screen. It's really nice. So the price tag on this is $13.49. Do we see a lot of these being purchased? What's your prediction on this?
I don't know. I mean, Lenovo is one. I think Lenovo may still be the number one volume seller
PC maker?
of PCs. Yeah, and I think it's definitely gonna attract a lot of interest this holiday season. People will be getting their college students, new computers for Christmas and stuff like that. And I think this is definitely going to be on the list. That along with Surface Pro 3s and some of the other great devices that are out there.
I wholeheartedly agree. So, do we have any more information about the Apple stuff?
Not really. I mean, the stuff's out there. You can always just go to apple.com and definitely read more about that.
Yeah, I wasn't too terribly. I'm not going to say this in a bad way. There was a lot of people, tech journalists and just tech enthusiasts, who was like, this wasn't a big deal for me. A lot of it's about hurry up and wait, that type of mentality. And that's what we were talking about with Paul before we went live, was this idea of there's a lull in technology right now. Android L is going to be writing to 64-bit instead of 32 and under processors. The Apple Watch is not coming out until 2015. Everything is about just wait for it. It's coming. It's not right now, but it'll be out later. And I know that's a lot with technology, but this is just kind of a particularly weird time because everybody's in that stage. You got Microsoft, Windows 10, technical preview, full release, not out yet. You got Apple Watch, full release, not out yet. You got Android L. Okay, we know about it, not out yet. And the devices that you're going to be buying now, you know, I see a whole, like, just this thing next summer, next winter, next fall, of just a whole bunch of devices and stuff. But right now, it's a weird holiday season. It's just strange. I mean,
Yeah.
people are still going to buy it, but if you like what you got right now, I would hold off for a year. Do you think that's good advice, Kev?
I would I maybe wouldn't go as far as say hold off a year. I would definitely
Well,
three to
a cycle. Let's just say a
yeah,
cycle. Hold off a cycle.
yeah. I would say a 3 to 6 month window though, really, because spring is going to be coming. We just got the Note 4. The Note 4 just released this last week.
Gosh, what a bad time to release that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a really nice phone, but it kind of leads to the new what we should be expecting from the Galaxy S6 with this design being like the Samsung Galaxy Alpha, for example. Aluminum band around the side and all.
I had a chance to have a hands-on with the Samsung Galaxy Alpha. I was pretty impressed. I
That's
like the
nice.
design.
Yeah. I mean, it's
And
still
holding it
sitting
in
here.
your
I need to gotta send it back today, actually. So.
hand. Nice. All right, awesome. Well, sir, we have reached towards the end of the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got
So
one or two more things still to go.
we got one or two more things still to go. Do you wait? Oh, well, that's the STL Tech Talk podcast. I was like, don't we have some tickets to give away?
Nope. Supposed to have done that earlier. We'll do the little giveaway here in a few moments.
Okay,
On
cool.
a different
So,
time.
right. So let's get to our application picks of the week.
All right. Now, we're still getting ready to World Series begins tomorrow, and I know this game is not new, but it's MLB Ballpark Empire. So if people that are like really big into like SimCities and simulation games where you can build your own Major League Baseball park and just kind of like build it up from scratch and take over the entire baseball world. You can do all kinds of things with this. It's free. It's on Android, iOS devices. So if you're a big baseball fan, like the Tycoon series of games and simulation games, definitely give this a look. Pick it up. Think you'll like it.
Nice. Yeah, I think that'd be a good game, and I think people should definitely check it out. I think it's a really solid game. Let's see here, one more thing. Okay, I do not have an application pick of the week just because I believe so much in what Kevin's is.
Well, I'll throw out one more that I just found out about today, and it's from it's not created by this person, but Robert Sherbert, the Cheeky Taurus on Twitter.
Oh
He was
yeah,
talking
that's
about
right. Oh, that was
Straw,
earlier.
a
Gosh,
straw polling app, which I installed on Windows Phone, and it's free. And you come up with the question with a few different choices, and you can like poll your friends and stuff. One of the cool things I really liked about it was whenever you go to log in, you can log in with Google Plus, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Microsoft account. You can log in with all kinds of different accounts. I like that. That's cool. And
that was
whenever
going to be my pick. That was going to be my pick for earlier today.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Funny. But no, it's really a pretty cool little app.
I tweeted about it and everything. They're following me now.
I submitted one question. You can submit your question out to, email, SMS, Facebook, Twitter, and I think LinkedIn. Even though I couldn't get it to connect to my LinkedIn account, it kept saying, cannot sign you into your Twitter account. I'm like, I'm not signing into my Twitter account. I'm signing into LinkedIn. So
what would be a good show now that I think about it is a security episode where we talk about these apps that have all of our data stored in them.
all of our content.
That would be pretty cool, right? Like an episode where we talk about because when you use these applications like Straw or like other applications that when you give your username and password to like your Microsoft account, they store that, and that's hackable possibly more so than because you gave it out more so than just normal hacking stuff. So that would
Prime
be
example. That third-party Snapchat app that allows you to save your Snapchats, pictures and stuff. That's what got hacked. It wasn't Snapchat itself.
Wow, that's so crazy. That is so crazy. So again, we'd like to thank Paul Thurrott, winsupersite.com. author of the Windows 8.1 Field Guide, Xbox Music Field Guide, and so on and so on and so forth. Just a phenomenal guy, a huge fan. It was really great to have him on. So we can't thank him enough for being on.
Yep, definitely. Another great interview.
Another great interview. Another one for the books, Kevin. I'm telling you, man. This thing is.
Let me see who's coming up next. I believe next week we've got Danielle Smith coming on to talk. Maybe not so much security, but how to protect your kids. It's tablets and smartphones and stuff like that with applications and stuff like that. And then we've also got Brandon Paddock coming up, creator of Tweetium for Windows 8.1 and
nice.
Windows Phone.
Nice.
Got some other great guests coming up, so stay tuned.
Kevin. That's all, Kevin. Phenomenal job, Kev. Phenomenal job. If you want to comment or contribute to any of the stories we cover on the show, email us, contact@thetechinformist.com. So from the entire STL Tech Talk, the Tech Informist, Codecast, and STL Tech Media, everything that we're doing, we got our hands all over the place. We got tentacles everywhere. From our entire crew, consider yourself informed. We're out.